Paul writing from a confined underground jail, I guess, from a cell underground, and he's writing to his protege, to his young mentee, a young man called Timothy. And he's writing from this confined space where others have brought their destinies to bear on Paul's life, and he's now under arrest in Rome, just awaiting death. He's now living in the confinement of what other people have placed him in this underground small jail, as we described a couple of weeks ago. Truth is that for many of us in this room today, we're living both physically confined, whether it's in financial challenges or whether it's health challenges, whether it's thoughts in our minds, but we're living in that confined space. But maybe for some, it's because somebody else's destiny has been placed upon us. The destiny for our life has not been ours to decide. Somebody else has determined that, and somebody else is shaping that. And so here is Paul from that place of confinement, speaking and encouraging and inspiring young Timothy never to give up the call that is on his life, never to give up the call to live big, never to be distracted by the things that are around him, always to get some grit in his life, as we were reminded last week, and to pursue and to become the man that God's called him to be, this man who lives big. Even in Paul's smallness, he's still living a big life. Even in Paul's difficulties, he's communicating from a big heart. And here we are in this room today, all of us in different places. But we have to realize that it's not what happens around us that is the issue of life. It's not what happens almost to us that is the issue of life. It's what happens in us that are the issues of life. The question, I guess, for us this morning is, how large is the container of our life? All of us, I guess, are like containers, like receptacles, like some things that God has placed stuff inside. And it's how we deal with the inner workings of our heart, of our mind, of our lives, of our soul. It's those inner dealings, actually, that God wants to get a hold of today. You know, He's placed you in the situation you're in. Whether it's husbandless or wifeless, whether that is financial challenges, whether that's with no family, whether that's being orphaned, whether that's being without a job. He's placed you in the place He's put. All for a purpose and all for a reason. That container that is you, that which is inside, He would work on and shift and shape to become the container that He wants you to be. And I believe that's where Paul is talking to Timothy in the second chapter of his second letter to Timothy. And he writes these words, and we'll read them together. If you have a Bible, this is the time to look that up. It's from 2 Timothy, his second letter, and it's the second chapter of that letter, and we're jumping in verse 20, where he's beginning to say to Timothy, you know, Timothy, I see you as a container. He describes the church, I guess, as a church with all various containers within its life, I guess. He says that some are gold and silver, some are wood and clay, some are all different kinds, just like all of us in here. You can turn to your neighbor and look into their face and you can see that they're different from you. Some are gold, some are silver, some are wood, and maybe some are clay. I don't know. But we look around here and we're all very different. And Paul takes this picture and he says, you know what? I want you to live big, Timothy. I want you not to occupy that small space anymore. I want you to get out of that small thinking and that small attitude. And here is how we're going to do it. I want to describe to you what it looks like to be a great vessel in the hands of God. A vessel for honor, he says. So let's read a few verses together from the NIV. He says, in a large house, there are articles not only of gold and silver, but also of wood and clay. Some are for noble purposes, and some are for ignoble or for dishonor. But if a man cleanses him from the latter, that is, that which makes something dishonorable, that which makes it ignoble, if a man cleanses himself from those things that corrupt and contaminate, if you can cleanse yourself from those things, then that man will be an instrument or a vessel or a container for noble purposes, made holy, he says, useful to the master and prepared to do any good work. He says, flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know that they produce quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not quarrel. Instead, he must be kind to everyone, able to teach, and not resentful. Let me read it to you in the Message, just so you get another picture exactly what he's saying here. He said, in a well-furnished kitchen, there are not only crystal goblets and silver platters, but there are waste cans and there are compost buckets. Some containers used to serve fine meals, but others to take out the garbage. Become the kind of container God can use to present any and every kind of gift to his guests for their blessing. Let me say it again. Become, what a challenge for us, to live big and become the kind of container that God can use to present any and every kind of gift to his guests for their blessing. Run away from infantile indulgence, he says. Run after mature righteousness and faith and love and peace, joining those who are in honest and serious prayer before God. Refuse, he says. Timothy, refuse to get involved in inane conversations and discussions. They always end up in fights. God's servant must not be argumentative, but a gentle listener and a teacher who keeps cool, working firmly but patiently with those who refuse to obey. In all our houses, there are a variety of containers, some that are valuable, some that are not, some that are useful, and some that are not. Your house is the same as my house. Paul describes it as a large house because in a large house you're going to get more things. And he says some are actually made of gold and silver that are seriously valuable, but some are actually just made of mundane components like clay and wood. But he says it's what happens in them that determines how good that vessel will be used. I brought some components, some containers from our home, things that you would recognize and you would identify that are present in your home. You know, there's things in your home just like a simple teacup, huh? Everybody's got a simple teacup. It's just used for mundane stuff. You drink tea from it, you drink coffee from it, and that's what it's used for. Some will use, I guess, a more of a kind of IKEA number, huh? We've all got IKEA numbers. Yes, help me now. This is a conversation. This is not a presentation. We've all got IKEA. So some folk got that, but some have maybe got a kind of, whoa. Oh yeah. We're talking real crystal. Yeah. Catch. Whoa. We're talking real crystal. But there's other things in our family home. Other containers. A flask, huh? That's a decent container. And then a jar. You get all manner of things in a jar. I don't know what's in there, but there's all manner of things in a jar. And then there's some other things. You get things that you keep your treasure in. Your stuff that you put treasure into. I don't know what your bank looks like. I don't know who you bank with, but here's one that we put treasure into. Not much treasure, by the way, but some treasure. And we put treasure in there, and that holds some treasure. Other times we put things that are not full of treasure. And they contain some other stuff, huh? Used for other things, not used for noble purposes, but they're still in your home. Hey, we're all normal, huh? We've all got a gastrointestinal tract. It all works. We all do that stuff. It's just normal. And then there are some things that are really valuable. You see, value comes sometimes from what is on the outside. Value comes from that which is designed to be. But then sometimes value comes from that which is described inside. You see, when my mum had passed away and she left a whole bunch of stuff, she left this, which is a Huntley and Palmer's biscuit tin from the 1950s. Ooh, yeah. This is called a vintage biscuit tin. So there's no vintage biscuits inside. They're all gone. But you see, this container is supposed to be of value because it's of its rarity and its age and its vintage. And these things fetch a really significant and high price because they're vintage containers. They're of great value. It's not made of gold or silver, but it's of great value. And so I was excited. I thought, farewell, King's Community Church. I'm never going to be looking at you again. I'm going to cash in my vintage, valuable container, and it's going to keep my life going for the rest of its journey. Hallelujah. And I'm all set. And so online I goes to look at my Huntley and Palmer's vintage, well-valued container, and I find it's £7.57. But then you see we've got other things here that have got no value. This has got value because of what's inside it, huh? It's what's inside here that gives it the value, not the outside. It's what's inside. And all of us in our lives have got the same reality going on. The challenge for us sometimes is that we place so much on the external thing that our value is supposed to be made from the external surface. And actually, we may think that we're valuable, but on the outside, it's not. It's what's inside that is valuable. It's that which is on the inside that Paul is trying to get a hold of. It's that which is on the inside of Timothy that Paul is trying to say to him, Timothy, if you could just learn to cleanse that which is corrupting you and potentially contaminating you from the inside, then you're going to be a vessel for honor for God. Then you're going to be a container that God can use. Then you're going to be able to be poured out on the lives of others and bring blessing to their life. Then you're going to be able to live a big life. And so today, for a few moments, I thought it would be great for us to look at the challenge of what actually is a big life. What is he actually describing a big life to be? And how can we choose to pursue that big life living? What does it take for you and I to become men and women who are vessels for honor for God? Containers that God can take and use. Containers that God can use in his house for the blessing to him and also to those that are around. Is that okay? Great, okay. Well, even if he said no, it's not going to go there. And he says, you know what? So many of these things are defined by what they're designed for, I guess. They're defined because they're designed to be a treasure chest, designed to be a crystal glass, designed to be a flask, designed to be a teacup, designed to be a toilet cleaning implement. That's what they're designed for. But actually, it's not what they're designed for. It sometimes defines them. It's how you describe them. You see, this little jar here, everybody knows it as a jar. But these days, what you do is you put a straw in there and you drink from it. Everybody drinks from these kind of things, yeah? You hip and trendy dudes. Help me now, come on. Own up, you all want to drink from jars. You're nuts, but everybody wants to eat the strawberry jam, chuck it out, get the jar, and then drink their hip and trendy stuff from a hip and trendy jar. But you see, it was designed to be a jar, but it's not actually described as a jar. It's called a mason's jar, where now you put lemonade into it and you drink from there. But for us, I believe that the truth is that if you and I could align that which we're designed for and that which we're described as, then that's living a big life. Let me say that again. If we can align that which we're designed for and align that with that which we're described by, then we're living a big life. Why am I saying that? It's because God has got a purpose and a design for all of us. Uniquely in this room, it's his purpose and his plan and his design that you and I should be living. He's looking for everybody to live a big life. That's the reality. I've come that you might have life and life in all its abundance. He's not looking for any of us to live small container lives. He's looking for every one of us. He's placed his Holy Spirit within us. The one who raised Christ from the dead dwells in you and I. That's who's living within us. It's the big life Holy Spirit who's living within us. No small attitudes, no small thinking, no small reactions, no small ness of our mindset, but a largeness of who we are and how we perceive life to be. And God's saying that if you and I could just get those two things together, that actually how people describe you is actually who you're supposed to be, then you're fulfilling the purpose of God and you're living a big life. And he says to Timothy, there is a way you can do this. He says, if a man cleanses himself from all that contaminates and all that corrupts, then he will be an instrument for noble purposes or a vessel for honor. It's an if statement. It's a clause. It's a conditional clause. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. And today, again, God is looking to speak to every one of us in this room this morning or this afternoon now and saying to us, it's your choice. It's your choice today. Are you going to cleanse? Are you going to shift the internal environment of your life that you may become a vessel of honor for God? Are you going to allow him to take away that which corrupts the internal environment of your life that you may be a container, a vessel for honor for him? It's your choice today. If you cleanse, he said, maybe you will, maybe you won't. Some will walk out the door today thinking that's either too much for me, or I'm not in that arena of life, or it's too hard for me to do. I ain't going to do it. But Paul goes on and he tells Timothy, if you say yes to that, this is what you need to do. And he kicks off and he says, number one, he asks the question, where are you running to? Where are you running to, Timothy? Where are you running to? You see, all of us are running in our lives. The verb that is used there is an interesting verb. It means to move quickly. It means to move rapidly out of the place of danger, out of the place of difficulty, out of the place where you're hemmed in. It means to move quickly to avoid danger. And the tense that is used means it's an imperative. It means make it a habit to run. Make it a habit to run. You see, all of us are running. All of us are running from somewhere to somewhere, from something to something, from someone to someone. For many in this room today, you're running from, I guess, bondage to freedom. Praise God. We sang about it. But you and I are running consistently from bondage to freedom. From being lost to being found, we're running. Some, unfortunately, are running from God to running about to them towards themselves, just interested in themselves. Some are running from guilt to finding forgiveness. All of us are running from somewhere to somewhere. And where are you running to is the question. And he says to Timothy, Timothy, you need to run from, flee the evil desires of youth. Flee the intense passions of youth. Flee and run away from everything that would drive a young man or drive a young woman. And for many of us, of course, we think that pertains to sexual passion and sexual lust. And yes, it does. It's contained within there. And what he's saying there is, run away from those passions that within that are going to destroy you. Run away from that passion of lust and sexual desire that is going to take you in the wrong direction. Run away. Make it a habit of yours to run in the wrong direction. And the story that you all remember is in Genesis 39 of Joseph. Joseph was a young man. He had been a slave and brought into the Egyptian environment. And there he was as the slave in the home of Potiphar, who was the captain of the army. And Potiphar goes off and leaves all the home in Joseph's charge. And Joseph was a man of integrity, a man of honesty, a man of loyalty and faithfulness, a man who realized what it meant to be self-disciplined. And yet Potiphar's wife comes and says, come on, Joseph, you're a buff young man. Let's sleep together. Come on, I really like you. You're a handsome dude. You're better than anything I can get on TV. Come on, Joseph, you and me, let's sleep together. And so the woman is enticing the man. He's a serious man to be able to say, no, I'm not doing that. Hello? But you see what the Bible says in Genesis 39:12, it says Joseph ran from that temptation. He didn't stop and question and think, hey, maybe that's a good thing to do, maybe it's not. I wonder what the benefit would be. I wonder if I maybe slept with her, I wonder if that's going to open the door, it might give me some power over her, and maybe if I did that, it would be great. No, he didn't. It just says he ran from the sexual temptation. He ran from youthful lust. And men and women in here, let's never be those who are entertaining that kind of stuff in our hearts. Let's not be those who are questioning and balancing, should I, shouldn't I? Run from it. Run from it, that you might cleanse the internal environment of your life, that God can use you to be a vessel for honor. But it's actually more than that. It's more than just sexual stuff. It's actually more about intense longing and desire for many things. It's those personal ambitions that we have in our life to be something. It's pride that says I can make it on my own. It's self-assertion to say I am somebody. It's about self-promotion, trying to make a way here and there and duck and dive that we can get ahead. It's about possessions and pleasure. It's about power. It's about all of those things. And Paul is saying to Timothy, Timothy, you need to run away from all of those things because they're going to take you down a pathway that is not going to make you a vessel of honor. Run in that direction away from him. So where are you running today? The question comes to all of us. Where are you running to today? Are you running away from all of that stuff that he's inviting you and I to run from? Where is it in your own heart, the passions and the intensity and the longing that you have for yourself? And Paul is saying to Timothy, Timothy, if you want to be a vessel for honor, run in the opposite direction. But he also says, but Timothy, I need you to run towards righteousness. I need you to run and pursue and go with all your effort and pursue righteousness and faith and love and peace. Are you running towards righteousness this morning? Are you running towards living a life that aligns with God's life? Are you running a life that is just the right life to live? You know, righteousness is living right and towards God's standard, constantly and daily facing that direction to say, today I'm going to live a little bit more righteous life than I did yesterday. Today I'm going to get closer to God's standard. Today I'm going to become a little bit closer to who He is and what He's like. Are you living and running in the direction of righteousness? Are you running in the direction of faith and faithfulness? He's describing here, you know, that's Timothy, if you can run towards loyalty and integrity, if you can be who you're supposed to be, called who you're supposed to be, that your word would always be true, that your yes would be yes and your no would be no, that you'll be loyal to those that are around you and to God, then you're going to run in the right direction. And he says, and your faith too, Timothy. How big is your God today? How big is the God that we have, that we're running towards today? Where's our faith? Can we see God as a God who intervenes in our lives? Is God the God who does miracles in your life? Is God the one who's sovereign in your life? How big is your God? Because the size of your God will determine the size of your life and determine the size of the faith of your life. If you live with a small God, then you're going to live out a small life. If your God is one who never interferes in the affairs of man, if your God is a God who never does miracles, if your God is only sovereign sometimes, then your life is going to be constrained and small. But God is looking for all of us today to run in a particular direction. Where are you running to today? If you run in the right direction, away from sin, away from the stuff of youth, and run towards righteousness, run towards faithfulness, run towards love, run towards patience and peace all the time, then you know that you're cleansing that inner environment and becoming a vessel for honor for God. Where are you running to? Number 2, he says, who are you relating to? He says, run along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Run with those who are in fellowship with. Who are you letting define your life? Who are you running with in your life? 2 mornings ago, 3 young men from this church began an 11.2 kilometer run. And they began early in the morning, about 6 o'clock, and they were made up of 3 different individuals. One individual was a very talented runner. He was the youngest winner of the Baker Hughes race in Aberdeen. He was very talented, a good runner. The next one has a lot of kind of zip and zeal in him, and is a plodder, was able to go for a long period of time. Just keep on going on, keep on going on. He was able to do that. The third one was a little bit older, and he'd some stuff to prove that he could still pounce, and he could still run, and he could sprint and then stop and catch his breath, and then sprint and stop and catch his breath. And the 3 of them were running. And Darren, the good runner, Craig, the faithful runner, and Barry, they were all running together, trying to conduct and fulfill the 11.2 kilometers. But they all made it. They all made it. Why did they all make it? Because they ran together, and they encouraged each other, and they chivied each other on, and they bolstered each other up, and they never criticized, they never pulled each other down. Well, probably they did, but not much. And then they kept on running to get to the prize. You know, who's around you in your life? Because there will always be people who want to shrink you back, want to make you small, want to pull you back and be a small container. So many people are actually defined by others, not by yourself. So many people are defined by what others say you are. You know, so many people are defined by what people say to you and do to you. Some, you see, are constantly and regularly deposited rubbish in their lives, because they see you as a toilet brush holder. So if they see you as a toilet brush holder, along they'll come and they deposit all the rubbish in your life. They think at all the criticism and all the complaints and all the negativity. You're the person who takes that. You're the person who receives all that negativity. You're the one who everybody knows. You're the one who receives all the negative. There's a bad story around. You're the source of that story. So everybody tells their stories, and it goes into you because you're the toilet brush holder. That's the container that you are. That's what you're defined as. That's what you're described as. But that's not what you're designed to be. None of us in here are designed to be a toilet holder, huh? You see, all it takes is for me to put some water in the toilet brush holder. Huh? With me now. Here we go. All it takes is for me to do this. Mm. Mm. No longer is it a toilet brush holder. Now it's a cup. It just dispensed water for me to bring refreshment into my mouth, huh? But you see, it's the same for all of us. It's a hee-haw moment, but it's actually so important for all of us. Because there are many people in here that you end up being toilet brush holders, because people deposit in you all the rubbish, all the negativity, all the complaints, all the cynicism, all the disappointments, all the bad stuff. Choose my words. It gets put in a toilet brush holder. Can I encourage you today? Don't let others define who you are. Be the jar that once was a jar but now is a lemonade dispenser, full of fizz and full of life. Let you be the one who says, no, that's not, you can't define who I am. I'm not going to run with you anymore. Who are you relating to? And who are you running with this morning? Who are the ones who are around your life and shaping and telling and deciding who you are? Many people get deposited rubbish in their lives because they see you as a toilet. So many people are around you trying to shrink you down and make you smaller, pull you down. You just step forward into the sunshine and you start soaring with God, and the container gets larger and He puts more stuff in and it begins to be poured out, and somebody comes along and shrinks you right back down again, says something and they shrink you back down. Shrink wrap people, I call them. Our daughter Rebecca, who's in Sydney, should be producing a kid today, but she's not doing it yet. She's overdue, so you could pray for her. She squeezes that kid out and we get another grandchild. She needs to deliver another one. It's due on Thursday. But she's in Australia. But before she left, she took all her cuddly toys, which kind of festooned the bed and then out to the bedroom. And they were everywhere. There was lots of cuddly toys. They took up so much space. And so when she left, we said, farewell, lovely. Get a lovely man and have a great life and live big for Jesus. And off she went. And she is living a great life with a wonderful husband. But little did she know that the shrink-wrap mom and dad put all the cuddlies into a lovely container, put a vacuum to that container, pressed the hoover, and then sucked all the air out. And of course, all these cuddlies are now kind of compressed into a small space. All of them. All of the air was taken out of their environment, and they're now confined in this little small space in a teeny-weeny suitcase. Takes up no room. But all it would need is a little release of the air and the air back in, and they would be enlarged again. So many people are looking to take the air out of your life, looking to take the spirit out of your life, to shrink you back down. Don't let that. Paul says to Timothy, Timothy, if you want to live a big life, if you want to be a container that God can use and be a vessel for honor, then who are you relating to? Who is running with you along the pathway of life? Who is the one that you have coming alongside you and walking with you and running with you? I would much rather have a Jonathan that David had. David says while he was in Horesh, in the desert of Ziph. So he's in a desert in this faraway backside town. He learns that Saul had come out to take his life. It's a difficult situation. And we know the story. Saul is constantly trying to pull him down, constantly trying to shrink him back from the design. God had already said, you're destined to be the king. You're destined to live a big life. You're destined to be the king of over all Israel. That's where your destiny goes. Saul, his predecessor, was constantly trying to pull him back, shrink him back, make him smaller. And here he is in the backside of this desert, and he's sitting there, and it says, and Saul's son Jonathan went to David and helped him to find strength in the Lord. Come on, that's the people you and I need to run with. People who come to you and help you find strength in the Lord. People who fill up the bag, fill up the container, put treasure in the treasure chest. Ones who put treasure into you. Those are the ones to add value to your life. Who are you running with? And Paul says to Timothy, where are you running to? Who are you relating to? And then he goes on and says, what are you refusing? Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments. He says, refuse. What are you refusing to hold on to? What are you refusing to take a hold of? What are you refusing to take into your life? Sometimes we just take anything and everything into our lives, whatever comes our way, whatever teaching, whatever doctrine, whatever truth, whatever somebody says, and we take it all into our lives. And Paul says to Timothy, be careful. Don't take anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments into your life. Don't take stuff that is going to make you shrink back into small thinking and small attitudes and holding small issues and living small. It's a wonderful word. It actually means to don't accept the invitation to go there. It says, no, I'm going to have nothing to do with that. I'm not going to go. We all meet so many single issue people whose lives are contained on one issue or one truth, and they got themselves imbalanced because of one particular thing. And they live small lives, and their container is small. And God, through Paul, is saying to Timothy, Timothy, refuse to get involved in that stuff. It is going to shrink you down. You know, if you and I run in the right direction, and we relate to the right people, and we refuse to engage in wrong thinking, then you and I will have cleansed that inner environment and will become a vessel of honor for God. You and I can be that vessel for honor for God. And he describes, he says, then you'll be an instrument for noble purposes, made holy, useful to the master, and prepared to do any good work. What does a living big look like? Well, it looks like somebody who's set apart for God. Set apart for God. Purposed by God and for God. We're sitting in here today and some maybe think I'm here by accident. Some maybe think that I was born by accident. Some maybe never met who their parents were. Maybe a story was told to you about how you arrived here. Can I tell you today that you've arrived and you're set apart not by accident, but you're designed on purpose, for purpose by God. He's got a purpose for every single one of us. He's set us apart. That word to be holy or to be set apart or sanctified means, you're put to the side for specific and particular usage. I love it. Don't let somebody else tell you what your purpose for life is. Don't let some other thing define what your purpose for life is going to be. Don't let the TV tell you what your purpose is. Don't let Facebook or your Facebook friends tell you what your purpose is. Don't let even sometimes yourself tell you what your purpose is. Let God tell you what your purpose for life is. Let Him define. Let Him set you apart. Don't let somebody say, well, I've always been a teacup. I was born a teacup. I'm growing up a teacup. I'll always be a teacup. No. If God wants you to be a treasure chest, then He's planned for you to be a treasure chest. All you've got to do is cleanse the inner environment and allow Him to enlarge you and be who He's called you. Purpose, He says. You'll be an instrument for noble purposes, made holy, purposed, useful to the master, profitable. It's a lovely term. It means to be useful, to be furnish what is needful, easy to be made use of. Are you ready to be used by God today? Are you in that place where if He called you today, you could be useful for Him? Are you useful for the Master? I love the picture of being useful because it says basically living big is not about living for self. Living big is about living for somebody else and something else. Living big is giving your life away on behalf of somebody else. All of these containers here are actually for somebody else's benefit. They don't benefit themselves. All of them are for somebody else's benefit. It's what is contained within them that becomes of benefit to somebody else. And it's what's contained within you that makes you usable for the Master, makes you profitable for the Master. This last Thursday, I was supposed to have a breakfast meeting in one of the local supermarkets here. And the person I was supposed to meet didn't show up, and I felt all sad, and I was Iain no mates, and I thought, what am I going to do for this hour? I thought, I'll enjoy a poached egg on toast. So I had my poached egg on toast, but actually when my poached egg on toast arrived, there was actually old poached egg on the plate. Blah. Somebody else's poached egg, yeah, you get the picture? So somebody else had their poached egg and left the remains of their poached egg or their fried egg on the plate, on the container that I was now supposed to use. I thought, I don't want to eat somebody else's poached egg. It became unusable for me. Why? Because nobody cleaned off that which contaminated it. You see, we're only going to be usable when you and I clean off that which is the thing that contaminates it. Only take away that which is corrupting you and I. Take away that which is renders it, I guess, unusable. And I, of course, had to get a clean plate. Oh, so sorry, sir, so sorry, sir. You get a clean plate, and then off you go. It's now usable. Has He got a clean plate with all of us? Has He got a clean slate with all of us? Is He using a clean container? I firmly believe that God will not use dirty utensils to put out His richest blessing. He won't dispense His richest blessing from the rubbish bin of our lives. He won't dispense the clean, refreshing water from a contaminated cup. What are we today? What kind of vessel are we today? Are we purposed, planned, set apart for Him? Are we profitable to Him? And are we prepared to be used by Him? Are we willing for God to stretch us and enlarge us? You see, if you and I want to become living big men and big lives for God, living as big men and women, then we have to say no to the small spaces. We have to say no to the smallness of our lives. If we're going to say yes to living a big life for God, then it means saying no to the small thinking. It says no to the small attitudes. It says no to the small relationships. It says no to the small hang-ups and hold-ups that we have. It says no to the small things that consistently irritate and get us. It means saying no to all of that. When Jesus came along and said to Peter, Peter, I know you're a fisherman here in Galilee, and I know that everything is the same as it always has been. Your dad was a fisherman. Your grandfather was a fisherman. Every day you get up and you wash the nets and you mend the nets. You clean the fish, you clean the boat. You get your nets all ready and you bait the net and off you go and you fish all night and then you come back and you do the same thing again the next day. And that is your life, Peter. I know that. It's the smallness of your life. It's so well contained. It's so easy. It's so comfortable, Peter. But I'm calling you to a bigger life. I'm calling you to a bigger future. I'm calling you to be a larger container, a container that is going to pour out my spirit on all flesh, a container that is going to pour out on the whole world. Can you come with me? Will you follow me that I would make you fishers of men? God is calling all of us today. Don't wait until you're old to become a vessel of gold. Can I say that again? Don't wait until you're old to become a vessel of gold. Become a vessel of gold of value today. Yesterday we were at the men's conference in Bradford. Finish with this. We were at the men's conference in Bradford, and one of the saddest moments was when one of the speakers was inviting people in their generations to stand. And he had the 20-somethings, and then he had the 30-somethings and the 40-somethings, and then he invited all the people who are between 55 and 75. I could have punched him in the face. And so he invited all those who are between 55 and 75 to stand. So I had to stand up with the 75-year-olds. I'm thinking, what good night, what is going on? And I stood there, and of course all our men's team sympathetically clapped for their pastor standing with the rest of the 55 to 75-year-olds. But as I stood there, I became so excited inside, because there was 40 men that it is my privilege to be the pastor of that were there. And I thought, I get to have the privilege of pastoring them. And then, of course, it then made me think about you and all of you guys and think, what an amazing privilege that here I am, 57, and got this incredible privilege of being your pastor, and you allow me week by week to be the pastor of this local church. It's amazing. And I thought, what an amazing privilege. And so I stood a bit stronger and sterner, and Daniel, my son, was there, and I stood stronger next to him as this 57-year-old. Thought, come on, bring it on, I'm 57. But you see, it got me another thought. Because it wasn't that long ago that I was 27. And when I was 27, there was a 57-year-old man waiting inside me for me to catch up with that 57-year-old man. And he was expecting that 27-year-old man to live big as a 27-year-old man, to sow big seeds and to live a big life, to have a big view in the world and to have a big heart for people. And when all those seeds were sown, then the 57-year-old man wakes up and stands up in Bradford with at least 40 other men there, and we're all together praising God. And that's the harvest of living big when you're 27, and when you're 37, and when you're 47, and when you're 57, still living big. And so for all of us in this room, for all of us in this room today, I know what age you are, but it's never too old to stand up and live big. It's never too old. Don't wait until you're old to become the vessel of gold. Be the vessel of gold now. Cleanse that which is your inner environment so that God could make you a vessel of honor for Him. Run in the right direction. Run with the right people. Refuse to be taken down that small road again, and be a man or a woman of purpose. A man or a woman who God takes a hold of and says, this is your purpose. This is the plan. Walk in it. Live a big life. Why would you live small when you can live big for God? Let's bow our heads and shut our eyes for a moment. We've got a moment of privacy.